Well, those in attendance, I note Mr. Nesham and Frankie, but not Mr. Schulte. And we still have a vacancy in the fifth seat, is that right?
Correct.
So 3 of us is a quorum, and we'll proceed. We received in the mail and email a draft agenda and minutes. Does anybody have objection to the agenda? Yes, Mr. Nesham.
One addition to the agenda.
Yes.
Under new business,
Nope. Under new business, and what would that item be?
dog poop,
Say it again.
dog poop.
Oh, by the way, I seem to have arrived here without a pen. Might there be an extra one nearby?
Oh, there you go.
And,
Hey, Craig.
Well, a pen is being found for me. The record will reflect that Craig Schulte has come, and we now have all the possible members present. Thank you. Under new business, the elegant term dog
Dog
poop.
poop.
And
Okay, yes, Frankie?
I would like to add meeting time.
Okay, meeting time. Anybody else have any items for the agenda that weren't passed out already? Okay, with those 2 additions, is there any objection to the adoption of that agenda? There being no objections, the agenda is adopted. Minutes were also set out ahead of time by email and by mail. Does anybody have any suggestions, amendments, or revisions that they would like to propose?
They look good to me.
Hearing none, without objection, the minutes will be approved as they were distributed. All right. The next item on the business is the golf report. I do not see Paul Jones either electrically or otherwise. Do you have a report from him?
I was expecting him, so no, I do not.
You say you were expecting it.
I hadn't heard otherwise, but
Okay,
I
well,
know
we'll
it's a
put
busy
that down
time
to
of
the
year.
foot of the agenda and see if he comes in the meantime. I was over there this morning. The clubhouse is closed. They're going to be doing some work on things next week. My understanding is they're going to aerate the greens and put some kind of chemical on the course that will close it completely. In the meantime, the flags are up and the junior Du Bois are still playing at 7:30 or now 8 o'clock. Although not today, I was by myself. But I'm not yet a junior Du Bois either. I have to show up when they do and carry my bag. And I did. They were not there today, but I'm told they'll be there tomorrow and Thursday. That's what I know about. Yeah, sir.
I've got one note on the golf report. Paul and I have worked with the administration on the purchase of new carts, more carts. We've
Yes.
been talking about this for the past few meetings and inside of the budget cycle as well. And so just, I think last week it was that we gave Paul the okay to make a purchase, make an order for 3 more new carts that will hopefully be delivered in 2022.
Okay, wonderful. Any other comments about golf? Okay, the next item on the agenda is 2022 Recreation Area Rates Preliminary Discussion. I gather you'd like to start that off, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. When I put down preliminary discussion, this is a bit premature as I realize we need to, well, we don't need to set rates by November, but we start to take reservations for 2022 next month in November. November 1st kicks off the May booking dates for 2022. So a couple things here. As Sam has suggested, I think that's a good one. We don't need to be rushed. We don't need to make any decisions tonight. We can accept November reservations, or what would be May reservations in November, that first week of November. There's not much activity, actually. When we looked at last November, not a lot of people book for May. And so we could leave rates subject to approval or, to be determined somehow. We don't have to plug in our rates to begin accepting May reservations. So
Do you have any thought that you're going to recommend changes in the rates.
Yeah, that's the memo I put out earlier, I think yesterday, which, came across yesterday, the 2022 rate discussion, is where I got some good ideas on the odds and ends rates up for discussion, as well as these ranges of, 3%, 5%.
We haven't seen that document, right?
It was emailed yesterday, but here's.
Oh, okay.
And I think this could be the one to sort of guide us tonight.
ahead,
Does everyone have a
continue.
copy of this? Everybody good with this? Right, so this is something I put together every year, basic brief outline of what it is we're doing. We're collecting user fees, why we're doing it. It's to keep the taxes low, keep our budgets healthy, keep on reinvesting in the operations. So generally, we have a incremental marginal rate increase every season just to keep up with inflation, cost of living, et cetera. That averages 2 to 5%. Over the last 15 years, we've been using this effectively on a incremental increases. Last year, we raised across the board 5%, right? We saw incredible demand with the pandemic and the cost of goods going up as well. So I think last year, 5% was a high watermark for rate increases. It's in that $1 to $3 per night is what that equates to. Typically, we're in the 3% raise, which is a more like 50 cents to $1.50.
Do we know what the inflation rate this year versus last year is?
I think it's around 3%.
Is there any reason why you don't want to go ahead and do this tonight?
No, not at all, Frankie. I feel like we could just get it over with, and
Yeah.
if everybody likes 3 or if you like 5, I mean, it's not,
The only thing I saw in looking at the figures was that there wasn't a lot of difference between tent space and regular space. So I wondered if we're charging too much for the tent space.
what do you mean a lot of difference? Like that the price? Like the $30 versus $45?
Yeah,
Yeah. In the past, we've frozen tent rates in an attempt to keep them lower in certain years when we have gone, let's say 3% on RV rates,
Yeah.
which added $1. We froze tent rates because we thought, $25 was a lot or $28 was a lot. We kind of we've definitely hit the ceiling for tents at $30 a night compared to other, campgrounds. Certainly the Forest Service has given it away. The state parks also have a subsidized camping system. But believe it or not, tents have been very much in demand the last 2 seasons. Now we've kind of turned that around where because of pandemic, because of young families coming into camping, our tent sites have been selling very well.
Yeah, we've been short of tent sites.
Yeah.
We've had people,
There isn't an issue of price. Generally, the price isn't discussed. I mean, there's some folks that are on a budget and don't, they'll go to the woods for $15 a night.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that's something I think it was 2 seasons ago, Steve, you felt the same, like, let's freeze tents, but let's go 3% on the RVs, and that's certainly up for discussion, and
When you say demand has been good, have we ever had a whole month where all the 10 sites were filled?
that was kind of July and August last year.
Last year.
Last year or this
Yeah.
year?
Not so much this year, last year definitely, we grew like 40% in tent occupancy last year
Okay,
because of the
what about this-
COVID.
What about this year?
I think it didn't get quite as busy.
No, I think it was back down because last year when we were full with all the tents, the state parks were closed, all the federal campgrounds were closed. So everything was closed except us for tenting last year.
But then why were people putting tents up on the tennis court because they couldn't find any site?
Yeah, and there are a lot of cowboys out there.
So you're saying that there would have been, they could have bought a site from you?
Yeah, in fact, our bike tent on that table, the very lowest price site, the $23, $25 site, on the bike trail, we almost always have available. They're walk-in, they're non-reservable. You can't park your car at them, but you can park right across the street at the office. And those we've always treated as like the economy sites, the people on a budget sites, the folks that are desperate on a Friday night. We can generally place them
Okay,
for
well,
the,
that's good.
$25 price.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd go with the 3% increase on everything then.
Do Do we have any sense at all about who the market is for tent sites? My guess is that it's people with families who are young, and former hippies who have chosen not to charge their way through the economy, and that generally speaking, they're not well-to-do in terms of in cash terms.
You know, it's tough to generalize, but it's a much younger demographic. It's, 20-somethings, 30-somethings actually. I think like a lot of college-aged folks are in the tent markets. It's difficult to generalize, but
Yeah,
we see all sorts.
so they may be the children of well-to-do people.
Could be, and yet well-to-do people, we can see them in tent sites as well. Like we've got these little Sprinter van, Mercedes vans, $100,000 van that'll just want a lakeside tent site, and they're perfectly willing to
That's
pay.
atypical for the well-to-do, isn't it? The well-to-do typically bring their own roof with them.
Well, here again, this is a mini motorhome that's
Yeah,
self-contained, and I think it's all over the map on the demographic. The season is what dictates it more so. Like when it's the summer vacation, yes, we're seeing families and kids. When it's September, we're seeing leaf lookers and artists and retirees that are,
Does anybody have a quick way to find out what the actual inflation rate between last year and this year is? He said about 3%, but he wasn't sure, and maybe somebody can look it up.
I'll check it, Steve.
It does seem like it's gone up awfully high.
Some things, the biggest problem is you can't get lots of things at the moment.
Yeah. But the groceries have gotten very expensive.
Bicycles are still very delayed.
4.2%.
The annual inflation rate in the United States has decreased from 3.2% in 2011 to 1.2% in 2020.
What about now?
August of 2020, 1.3%.
That's last year.
No, the inflation rate is 4.2%. That's what it's saying. On Wednesday, they raised it estimate this year to 4.2% from 3.4.
There you go.
Just 10 months ago, they were expecting it to average at 1.8.
So it's
4.2%.
I would think.
Wow.
Might be higher.
So how might that the 4.2 and the 3.4, is that what people now forecast for next year? Or are they saying that's what's happened over the last 12 months? Does anybody know?
I think it's the current rate.
Pardon?
It's the current rate, I would say, is what's compared to last year at this time. But I'm not an economist.
Well, does anybody have any particular notions about what they'd like to suggest from the potpourri that we've been offered on various subject matters?
3 was a very nice round number and seems to split the difference. And you hate to encourage people to go to 4 and above. So I would hold the line at 3.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it could be with one quick comment. Do you want to go over 30 for a tent? Or hold it at 30?
I don't. I would suggest that we leave the tent space at 30.
33 seems like a lot for grass.
Yes. So your motion then would be, if you go along with my thought, is that there would be 3% increase in all the general rates except for tenting.
Yeah, with the understanding the demand of tending on the infrastructure is pretty low, isn't it, Dave?
Actually not, Bob, because of their lack of facilities. We see a higher impact in the bathhouses from tenters and muddy boots and, using the utility sink and greasing it up, and because they don't have their own
They don't have their own.
facilities, they're harder on ours.
So this tent, this 30, 50,
These include the 3% increase, right?
Yeah, 30/50 is a 3%
That's a
increase.
3%
Yeah.
increase over this current year.
Well, then, let me modify that to just leave it at 3, and then keep an eye on it, and if there are complaints about the price of tent, you could back off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, because what's a state for, our natural forest?
They vary. It's under 20.
Yeah, not very much. And very little infrastructure.
Cascade, Magny, is that what they are, under 20? Devil's Track?
State
They're
parks are
actually,
more.
like, a little bit more,
State parks. yeah.
because it's like up the trail, it's almost à la carte, because it's like an extra vehicle is like 12 to 14, so it starts to add up.
Yeah.
Then some of the places too have bathhouses and a lot of them don't.
Right. That's all.
State
Like-
forests
like
mostly
Temperance
don't.
does, I think.
Yeah, state parks
Magny-
do.
State park-
Magny does,
Parks
Yes.
got a high cost
I
of.
think.
Yeah,
The state parks
yeah,
provide a little bit more amenities than.
a lot
most,
more.
Like, let's say Devil's Track Campground.
There, yes.
The
And-
good news is you can't get into a state park, so it doesn't matter.
So
Yeah,
how do you
they're-
feel about
they're
just
full.
raising it to 3 when inflation is 4?
All the time. Yeah.
You know, I
would
think
rather
3 is
see it
fine.
as-
You know, we went 5 last year. That seemed like, for the,
A bit.
that was a lot. I mean, not a lot, but it was the first year we went 5. The previous years, it had been 1.5 to 3.
Oh, okay.
The proposals for the odds and ends rates don't fit the 3% very well.
No, those,
So we
let's
would
talk
need
about
to-
those
We would need to
second.
have your motion about that the general rates, but not the odds and end rates and not the tent rates be increased 3%.
Yeah, I would even let the tent rates rise and then re-examine them to see if demand drops next year. That would keep it all at 3%, which is very tidy.
My sense is that demand will not drop, but people will just suck it up and pay more. And I'm not so sure I want to impose that on them, you know. I want to leave a place in the world where you can live cheap.
Yeah, but 50 cents more, 50 cents, you know, is what, or $1.
3%,
It's called nickel and dime.
Yeah.
$30.
I don't feel strongly about it, but I feel, I mean, I'm not going to tell you I won't vote for it if you vote, but I would prefer to keep the tent rate flat.
We could have,
It's our little,
we could have a split vote, and that would be kind of exciting.
well, yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
are
certainly
we-
willing
are
to
we
do
just
that if
discussing
people are in
3%
need of
across the
drama.
board on all of these, all the way down? We didn't talk about the marina. I mean, are you okay with?
I think it's nice to be uniform,
Yeah, okay,
or that's historically how we've done it.
okay.
So, Mr. Nesham, what motion have you made or are you going to make,
3% across the board for lodging.
including tents?
Yep.
Okay? Is there any second to that motion?
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, and it does not include the odds and ends rates, is that correct?
Correct. And the
All right.
discussion is to review it next year and see if it dropped off.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. Mr. Nesham,
Aye.
Aye,
Frankie,
aye.
and Mr. Schulte,
Aye.
and I would abstain because of the tent rate. So that's 3-0 to 1.
Wow.
Now, with regard to the odds and ends, has anybody, do you have anything you want to say about them more, Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. This was just me brainstorming, trying to catch up on rates we haven't looked at for a long, long time. And so it's just this very low yield rates. This isn't going to make us a lot of money, except for maybe the June, going all peak for the first 2 weeks of June. That has the potential to pick up quite a few more funds. As you know, the first 2 weeks of June right now is an off-peak rate. It's about 25% off. We probably make close to $100,000 in those first 2 weeks of June. So you can imagine a 20% boost to that is going to be a nice little gain.
You mentioned group camping rates. What does that mean?
So we offer these flat, big, grassy group spots for tent parties, scouts, churches, et cetera, Superior
How
Hiking
many are
Trail
there of these
volunteers.
big spaces?
We have 2 of them, Group 1 and Group 2. We
Okay.
can host up to 50 to 100 people, actually, when the St. John's University brings their freshman class in on the, big buses. I think that was close to
And
70
where in the
people.
park are these located?
One's out west of the ball field area, out in the back corner, sort of by the Sweethearts Bluff gate. And the other one's right on the corner where like the old shop was, right across from the picnic pavilion.
Some of you know where that is, and when I take my tour of the park, I'll do.
Yeah, so they're just these big flat grassy spaces. We sell them to groups for $6 per person per night, and that rate's been that way forever. And it somewhat mirrors the tent sites where you need to be a 7-person minimum to qualify for group. So you're looking at like $40-some at a group site minimum, versus 35 at a regular tent site. So in many cases, that's comparable to just renting a tent site for 30-some bucks.
In general, the group tent sites are rented by institutions like the Scouts and universities, and not by individuals or families.
It's mixed, Steve. It's 50-50. There's some big families that are using them. We see a lot of, like during Fisherman's Picnic, there's a cornhole tournament family. The same family gets it every season, and they'll pack 20 or 30 people in and play cornhole all weekend. And so it's not just groups, it's not just institutions, but it gives them, that's what they're looking for, a place to stay in town,
How
in and
full
out of the
have they
Boundary
been?
Waters. Not that full. They're full on weekends, but they're not full in the midweek. They come and go with their use.
And that makes sense, because for group things,
Yeah.
it's hard to get everybody free during the week.
Yeah, so again, this is just one of those nickel and dime deals, but it's something we haven't adjusted in forever. Much like the off-season rates, once November kicks in and we winterize, we'll offer electric sites and, rustic non-electric sites for, weekend people.
Since those spaces are empty during the week, what if we had a dual rate there? What if we raised the rate for the group on the weekends and left it free to encourage use during the week?
Yeah, we've actually dabbled with that concept in the past. Weekend rates is common in other parks and obviously in hotels, and when you're doing yield management, you're always dialing your rates up and down based on demand. We've since gotten out of weekend rates. We've just sort of treated every night like a weekend. But there was a time when we were charging up $2 or $3 more for weekend rates across the board. And instead, we just made everything that
Well, and I'm
amount
not
more.
suggesting that we do this across the board. If we've got empty spaces that aren't being used at $6, if we raise it to 10, they're gonna be not used at 10.
Yeah.
And so, my sense is that the issue would be to market, to let people know about that. Here's your special deal that's available in Grand Marais. Even though we're full up generally, here's your opportunity.
Well, and honestly, the group sites do tax us in their impacts to the bathhouses, and, here's where I do want to collect a little more from these groups, because when you bring in 20, 30, there's a motorcycle rally, for example, and it's every year, and there's 30,
Okay,
40
now we're talking
bikers.
about a cost side of it as opposed.
Oh,
to
yeah,
the
and these
side.
guys, they all go in the bathhouse, they take showers, they mess it up, they used up our supplies, and we feel like $6 a person is just not enough.
While we're on this issue, you said that it's been $6 forever. You've not recommended a particular amount. Do you want to suggest one? 10? Is that where?
10's too much. 7 or 8, just, go up a buck or two. I don't know, Sammy, how do you feel? It's we don't use group that often.
Does anybody have any preference with regard to the group camping rate, group tent camping rate? 7 and 8 have been suggested. 10 was inkled, but not really suggested.
What's the minimum for,
49?
to establish a group, 7?
7.
And the current rate is what?
6.
$6 per person per night.
Mm-hmm.
So if we raise it to 8, that wouldn't be too much more. Would it be enough to help?
Every dollar helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how many of these nightly campers have we had for the season?
On group sites,
Yeah.
it's hard to quantify. It's low yield. Group sites make like $2,000, $3,000, maybe $4,000 all summer on that group site.
Even with the weekends being full.
Because the group sites aren't always full. Because, some groups like them, some people don't like that they're right out in the open.
Again, this is just we haven't dialed this up, and I think since we've been here, right?
Well, it used to be 5.
But like 15 years ago.
I don't remember.
Well, this is not something we're spending too much time on, since it's only a $4,000 a year proposition at the moment.
Could go up and down.
Any number will do, 6, 7, or 8.
I suggest 8.
All right, that, she moves 8, Nesham seconds. Is there further discussion? There be no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That sounded like it was unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay, and the chair votes aye as well. All right, so we've dealt with group camping rates. The proposal was fees for things extras, so like extra cars and extra adult. And the proposal is to increase them respectively from $3 and $4 a night to $5. Is there a motion to that effect, or any great opposition?
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, all unanimous again, notwithstanding the fact that we're missing one person. Do we have any news on that? Okay. Let's see, the off-season rates. The proposal is for $10 rustic and $20 electric. I presume rustic doesn't mean you pee in the woods. You still use the bathroom, but you don't have electricity.
You don't have electricity, you tent, we have a porta potty in the off-season.
Right. Is there a motion to support that change?
I so move.
Is there a second?
What was the amount? Right.
10 for
Oh,
rustic,
that-
20 for electric.
It currently 8 and 15.
I'm sorry,
We went
we
back
jumped,
up.
okay.
We went back to the top.
Yes. Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The chair votes aye. Storage rate. 3% would be how much?
$2.
$2, that would make 76, that's the spirit. 5% would be,
$370.
Under $4.
is there any motion on that subject?
This is just for leaving something there
Off-season,
for
RVs and boats.
$80 a month, 75, $80 a month. And you provide
Space,
security, sort of.
Space.
a little bit, not guaranteed, but
Yeah, not
we do keep an eye on
You
things.
got a space to leave.
Yeah, I think 5% is reasonable for that. Rather, I mean, if you own that much junk, you gotta pay for it.
That would be $3.70. Do you want to make it 4 or 3, or leave it right there precise?
I think 80 would be a nice number, but I'm not a trailer guy, as you can tell.
370.
What would 5% be?
370,
What's 3%?
220.
You know, leaving something there that you, and I just hate to charge them too much. That's really hard because you're not using it.
Right, but you gotta consider
Has there been?
rental
any-
space
I'm
and
sorry.
other, what's your other choices of rental space, you know? You have
Okay.
to buy rent space somewhere else, or your backyard, or your garage, or the rec park,
Yeah.
Transport
People
fees
store
too.
those things for vast
transportation,
amounts of
hauling
money.
it.
What's been the experience of the park in terms of numbers of people who are storing their vehicles over the winter?
Well, it's the RVs that are paying, and what we corrected last, or not corrected, but last fall, we changed our storage policy so that you'd have to pay 4 months of on-season, camper rates at the like $800 a month to qualify for the $74 storage rate.
And what happened as a result?
Most everybody was okay with the change. They paid 4 months of on-season, now they'll pay 8 months of off-season. It was quite an increase to those that were used to only paying 3 months of on-season and 9 months of storage. And if anyone recalls, we had maybe 40-some people in that fleet.
You know, the secret to taxation is to get the feathers off the goose without the goose noticing.
You've said that
You're
before.
doing a good job.
Yeah, so I bet we have roughly 40 or so RVs that are in that, or is that too many?
And how many of them are Canadians that
Yeah,
can't
quite a
come
few.
down?
But a lot of them are in a 12, well, none
A
right
lot of them do
now.
the 12 months, so I mean, there's probably,
Can you be up to the mic?
a lot of them, I don't even think that's on, but a lot of them do the 12 months, so,
Which includes storage.
which includes the storage, so it's a
Okay.
mute point for them. I honestly think it's more like
Under 20.
under 20, maybe 16 that it
That do
affected.
the-
That are affected by this
4 month,
particular.
and then, yeah, because you have to do,
And then maybe a couple of boaters that store little sailboat on a trailer is one, and
Well, we've got 3% was 220 and 5% was 370. If we chose $3, that would be an odd percentage, but it would be a nice even number. How do people feel about $3 as an increase on that modest little fee?
That works for me.
If anybody likes either that number or some other number, now would be a good time for a motion.
I make a motion to increase it to 77.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Schulte to increase the parking fee from 74 to 77, seconded by Mr. Nesham. Is there any debate? We have covered it pretty well up to now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That
Opposed,
rate,
same sign.
that rate
Chair
didn't
votes
change
aye.
last year, did it?
I think it went
Okay.
up $2.
Did it went
No.
up? Oh,
The entire month of
didn't.
June peak season
left
is
it last
being
year, Mark.
suggested.
But it
The
wasn't-
result of that would increase the price of the first 2 weeks of June.
That's right, yeah.
Part of the 5% increase.
So the June, you can see on the rate sheet, maybe on the back card, you can see how June's a break. The first through the 15th is off-peak. You're right, so you're saving like $5 a night on the rates, which, you know, is about 20%. Then 15th through the end of the month is peak.
Are we full in June or anything the first 2 weeks?
Not full, but, you know, the last 2 seasons, it's been a whole different deal. I mean, certainly COVID last year wasn't even comparable, but this year I felt like the pace was set. It was hot, it was dry. We started to become very busy.
In the first 2 weeks? Well, if climate change is real, maybe it's gonna be hot and dry during the first 2 weeks of June forever.
Yeah,
Anything after Memorial Day is summer. Oh,
Well, there are some school districts that don't get out until later than that, but you're right, Memorial Day is generally considered the summer, the beginning of summer.
So
Do we
off-peak,
have any idea what that would produce in terms of increased revenue, assuming no change in the population for those 2 weeks?
I kind of think first 2 weeks of June could be regular.
10 to 15,000,
Pardon?
10 to 15,000.
That's not chicken feed for most people. And we can buy 3 used golf carts for $10,000.
Yeah, no, this I would say has the most potential for movement. Of these odds and ends rates, if you were to go peak June, you're talking, you know, 5 figures a gain.
So, is there a motion or a further discussion?
June is summer.
Okay, so Mr. Nesham moves that summer be really all of June, July, and August, not just
And
half
September.
of June.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
And seconded by Frankie. Any debate? All those in favor, say
Full
yes, sir.
disclosure, it took me 2/3 of a lifetime to realize that the weather is crappy until July 1st. But that's my problem, not your guest's problem. I also don't. I don't
What
like
do you
trailers.
describe as crappy? Rainy?
Rainy, yeah. I don't like trailers and you like golf carts too much. There are some conflicts of interest here, which we should strike from the record. But it's being recorded.
Actually, I'm looking seriously into buying the kind of golf cart that follows you around the golf course and then I won't be paying you guys your 300 and some odd dollars per season, and I'll hope I'll live long enough to make it pay.
That sounds like another murder by your golf course author, where you were found on the course with tire tracks over you.
Actually, he doesn't know much about this yet. He's still out of town, and I haven't had a chance to discuss the electric golf trolleys, which are really quite popular in England. And if you want to watch YouTube videos of electric golf trolleys, I recommend it because they're really quite entertaining in all events. The proposal is, I think we voted June already, right? No, we didn't vote. All
During
right.
summer.
You just need
The
to say all
motion
right.
was to declare all of June a hot spot as opposed to.
Peak season, yeah.
The second half of it. And
Did you get a
therefore
s-
raise rates in the approximate, well, raise income in the $10,000 or $15,000 range.
Do we get a second?
Pardon?
Frankie.
Okay.
Is there any further debate? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none opposed, the chair is yes.
Nice.
Okay. Now, I do have a question about how we're doing vis-à-vis the budget for putting money in the city's coffers.
We're doing good.
Are we ahead of budget, or are we about online?
We're ahead.
Good. So there's a few things for us to think about sprinkling around if we, wanted to go that route. Okay?
Yeah, I think council set a preliminary levy. Well, here's Craig's report. He's next.
By the way, I have one addition to our combined golf report, and that is the rain has brought the course back into very nice condition. And the rough is plenty long now, and if you play early in the morning, you can play in the dew.
Thick dew.
And you can see where your predecessors drove their carts or walked. Okay, we have finished the recreation rates, have we?
Thank you all.
And the next issue would be a city council report, Mr. Schulte.
Okay. At the last city council meeting, we discussed, there was a grant approval for the water runoff area where the park driveway is off to the right. That's gonna get reconstructed. So a grant was approved through Cook County Soil and Water and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for around $265,000. So that work in there should help to slow down water that flows through the park from that pond that was built, gosh, many years ago when they did the highway, I think, when they did that highway project. That was on the agenda for last week. I don't have the city council report from the 1st of September. I don't think there was anything.
It's all right.
It was it was a really short meeting.
When did you set the preliminary levy?
That must have been the first Wednesday.
That was after I presented, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was at 5. Preliminary
Yeah.
levy was set at 5.65, 5.95. That would be the highest of the preliminary levy
Mhm.
for next year. We have discussions yet to set it, but to set the actual levy. It can't go any higher than that. I think it was 5.95.
Anything else from you, Greg?
No, not that pertains to the park.
I do have a question that might fall under the city council, might be the park, and that is what kind of trees were planted by the highway department to replace the ones that were torn down on the Highway 61 downtown project?
It's the ones on my lot. I took pictures of the stakes, and those were an elm tree. I can't remember what species, but I think I took a picture of it.
There were, I counted 7 trees between 3rd and 1st or so. But I don't know breeds of trees well enough to.
I see a bunch of maple. I think it's the autumn blaze maple is There's-
Maple?
Yep, maple in the mix, elm.
He thinks he's
Ash.
got elm down by his place.
Elm by, like Johnson's Big Dollar in front of me and going down towards the credit union, those are all an elm.
I think there's a new,
Species.
there's a new hybrid of it, elm that's Dutch elm
Yeah,
resistant.
forgot I
We
took
hope these are elm disease resistant.
They are.
it. Then they have other, I don't know where they're putting all those little, like, cedar pines or whatever, I don't know where those are all going.
Who would be the authoritative source of which trees were planted where?
City Hall.
City Hall?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the DOT layout.
Patrick, could you find that out for me?
Yeah.
That would be nice, because
They're
at some
planning
point,
today.
we're going to be celebrating the fact that we have this wonderful tree arbor again, but
Lots
it
of
might be a
trees.
year or two.
I know there was some pines as
Okay.
well. There's a mix.
They might all die this winter.
Just don't say that.
Yeah, they're planting today, they're finishing up, going that direction, and then they have a lot of smaller little shrubbery type stuff, I think, is going in front of, like, the Dairy Queen and the Bear Tree Park area. Not on the lake, but they're doing that today.
People criticize the government a lot, but this project was done on time and apparently within budget. That's worthy of note for the world. But Brian's not here to report that. Maybe he'll read the minutes.
You could watch the tape.
Yeah.
5.96, so that was quite.
All right, the next item on the agenda, if we're ready to move to that, is the Parks report.
Do you need a copy, Steve?
I didn't find it because it came to me
Late. Everyone else got a copy? October already, last month of the season for water. We're projecting October 24th will be our last full-service bathhouses water day. That's the Sunday of MEA. It's late this year. It's always weather dependent. We've been very busy. Obviously, the fall colors are peaking right now. The weather's still very warm and mild, and so it's feeling like we're still full speed. But we're definitely winding down. We've closed Bathhouse 2. The little Bathhouse 2 below the office is now closed for deep cleaning. We have, 4 bathhouses, so we have to stage their deep cleaning as once it freezes up, we're out of water. So the next couple weeks, the staff will be deep cleaning bathhouses. And, 2 has always been a little superfluous. It's offline. Hopefully no one will miss it. Next up will be Bathhouse 3. Next week, we'll close that.
What does class 5 mean, where they were grading class 5 to rough in the elevation?
It's the gravel. It's like a speck of
size.
gravel, yeah.
Like my fist? Or
No,
smaller?
like road, like driveway gravel.
Oh, okay. And will they be continuing to work this fall, or are they
No.
done for this fall?
No, they're done. But just to wrap up the October, this is very weather dependent through MEA weekend. We got a full book actually for MEA, so it looks like it's gonna be warm. We're definitely down to skeleton crew. A lot of folks have moved on. We want to thank everybody who's still with us. Everybody's committed and doing good. Park office hours are down to 8 to 4 now because of shortness in staff and, generally slower, but rush hour is still in that afternoon. 8 o'clock on Friday nights. So on to the Parkside Project, Steve. The construction is done for the season. Vite, the team that did the break wall, is done. Their contract's complete. They've vacated the site. Last week, Phase 2 started early when KGM, they're the new contractor. They'll be doing the pavement and the ramp work next summer. They got a head start on things by hauling in the Class 5, which is this gravel, to do a rough grade of the parking lot down there. They have since completed that. They're going to suspend their contract for the winter, but the site will remain fenced and closed to the public until late next summer, early fall is when this will be finally completed. But expect KGM to get back into work next spring.
We probably want to think of some kind of event to hold when we open up that thing.
It's a good idea.
That might generate some publicity and some positive.
That's right. And I think the DNR's got that same, they would do that same, celebration.
We want to make sure that we're standing next to DNR when all that happens.
That's right. And
I mean you and the city fathers who get elected as opposed to us.
It's an election year, they will all be standing next to the DNR next to you.
We hope so.
Oh, yeah,
You got the big gold scissors?
especially next year.
So,
We
yep,
probably need somebody playing a concertina for that, don't we? Or maybe a barbershop quartet.
we'll see what we can do. But yeah, so the short story is they're done for the year. It's still fenced, the gate is still there. The water department still needs access to the plant, to the treatment plant, and they've expressed a preference for not having the gate locked all winter. So it could very well be that the gate appears open, but we will have keep out signs on it, because it's still a construction site, and we don't want people wandering around getting hurt. So that's Parkside.
You would have a gate closed.
Yeah, it won't be locked. The water department doesn't want to get in and out of the truck, 6 times a day when they're going to the water plant.
Are you talking about the gate to the
The
pole park?
construction site. No, at the end of the
Okay.
road.
And what about the water treatment plant?
Yeah, they still need access.
I don't know what we're doing at that place.
That's where we're pumping water in from the lake and chlorinating
Running it
and,
up the hill.
Right. The pumps
See,
are
now I
there.
didn't know that. That's what that big building is behind the fence.
correct.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
Craig?
The current boat launch over there,
Mm-hmm.
is it still usable? Did they leave that dirt pile there?
Yeah, it's, the ramp's crushed from when they put the pumper truck on
That's
it.
the question I had. Some of the boats that we have in the water, will they be able to come out at the, because some of them use that ramp to get out of the water with their big trailers that they have?
They've already gone. Folks
Okay.
knew that ahead of time. Like
Okay.
the 2 in the marina are already down.
Okay, I was just making sure everybody can get out of the water.
Yeah, no, I was proactive even this spring with we're not gonna be able to use that ramp this fall.
Okay.
And
Well,
so
I know
no,
they had a
it's-
bunch of dirt piled up on it, but I did not know the condition of the
Concrete's pretty well gone. There's a couple of jersey barriers right at the top of it to, prevent anyone from
So
using
that's
it.
gonna get totally newly constructed.
New concrete, yep.
Okay.
And because they can't work in the water until after June 1st,
Yeah.
to do that ramp work, there's where there'll be a bit of a delay, or at least the work will commence June 1st to reconstruct in the water ramp. They're gonna have to de-water. It'll be pretty sophisticated where they're gonna pour concrete
In the water.
in the water.
Wow.
And that'll be next summer.
Okay.
But yeah, the 2 big boats in the marina that typically trailer out over there, one of them already left and sold out, actually. Dwayne on Real Sport is done, but the new guy coming in had a 38-footer that he knew he couldn't haul out here. He's already back at Knife River
Oh, okay.
and Rockin' Robbins at Silver Bay.
Okay.
So that's been accommodated. Yacht Club dock came out last weekend, fit like a glove. So, that's the boat launch project, and the rest of the news here is the Violence Prevention Center has got the Tree of Hope up in Harbor Park, little purple lighted tree. There's an interpretive sandwich board there to raise some awareness for October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And they're having a candlelight vigil on Thursday, October 14th at 6 p.m. And then, like we talked about early on, the booking season starts next month. November 1st opens up the books for May 2022. Same scheme as last year, seemed to work well. We've been handing out slips all summer that spell this out for guests, so hopefully it goes even smoother now that it's our second year into it.
And you've got the new rates to use.
The new rights.
Rates.
Oh, rates, yes, indeed, thank you for those. That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments about the Parks report? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business if there is any. I see no hands raised. Under new business, the first subject that was proposed was dog poop by Mr. Nesham.
There was a complaint filed by Visit Cook County with the exec of the Gitchigami Trail Association about dog poop on our shiny new 5-mile trail. It's only 3 new miles, but it's our trail.
The one from Cutface Creek up to
One from
here.
Cutface to 8th Avenue is DNR, and there was an allegation from Visit Cook County that dogs were being allowed to poop on our new trail, and that people were complaining. So, being a good board member, We have studied the trail daily, to see how severe this infraction was, and almost nothing has been discovered.
I mean, almost no dog poop.
Almost, well, there was goose poop, there was seagull poop, there was bear poop, which we had to identify by the book, mostly plums and apples this season. But
You
really,
can also tell bear poop by the size.
well, that too, but, you know, dog poop can certainly move into that arena, but apples and plums, not dog food. So we studied the trail like daily. The only significant poop was this weekend, this most recent weekend. There were 3 incidences of canine incontinence on the trail, likely supervised by their owners, but they were not observed. So, the Gitchigami group got back to visit Cook County and said, not as big a problem as you think. And most of it seems to be down at the DOT's responsibility at Cutface, where they do have a pet exercise area. So the solution to this is to check with Dave, which will come up in just a moment here. And my wife and I are gonna get 2 shovels, and every time we ride this trail, we will take the offending poop and scoop it off.
Well, it occurs to me that if there's a dog park down by Cutface Creek, and there's unfettered access from the dog park to the trail,
Yep.
why not put up a little fence or even?
No, it's not a park, it's a DOT pet exercise area.
Okay, I'm just suggesting maybe the DOT would like to put up a little fence along their exercise area between it and the trail to discourage dog owners from.
It's also the route down to the river and the beach, and that would be, I think, an inappropriate use of taxpayer funding as a Minnesota resident.
So as long as you're willing to
Unnecessary.
ride the trail and
Far
scoop it off,
cheaper.
we're got a problem solved.
To get 2 plastic shovels, I'd like to buy metal, she wants to buy plastic. We'll work this out. Can you find a beach shovel in Grand Marais in October? We'll work this out. But then check the trail every day or 2, scoop it off, and then we've told Visit Cook County, we'll keep an eye on it. Then, I kicked it upstairs and checked with Dave about those little bag stations that are stationed around the rec area, because do we need to put those on the new trail to let people bag their dog poop, if they are so inclined, which they probably aren't. So Dave's experience is now relevant. David?
Well, thank you, Bob.
Yes.
So we have 18
Poop, 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 poops in
mutt
your
mitt
lap.
stations, the little dog bags, 18 stations throughout the park and downtown.
Okay.
So it's, probably about 12 in the park and 6 downtown.
This
Roughly.
Western has a couple, I think,
Yeah.
unless they have them.
And, these have come about through citizen activism. Principally, a few years ago, the downtown business people said, we need more of these around. They were willing to sponsor some. You see some signs with sponsorship on them. They do well. They take a lot of maintenance. They take a lot of bags. We spend thousands of dollars a year on these.
Is that clear on the record? Thousands of dollars a year, Mr. Tursky just said. Thousands of dollars, and how much staff time?
Thousands of dollars.
Huge.
Got empty.
Yeah, it takes a lot. And it's a regular function of our maintenance staff to go around town and change out the bags and stock the bags, and then we order bags, and yeah,
The
they're,
bags are already dropped into a container, are they not?
they are, but we need to restock the little box that supplies them.
I see.
And the bags are often left alongside the trail, as if the poop fairy will come and pick those up.
Yeah, and so we have a cute little, there is no poop fairy coaster on our front desk at work, and everybody loves it. Everyone checking in gets a chance to see it. and
I'm
comment.
sympathetic to Mr. Nesham's insistence on the record reflecting the cost,
Thank you.
but couldn't we be a little more precise about that? Just in case the animal rights activists, want to know the answer of it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So we order twice a year, like, from the Mutt Mitts people, they supply the bags in boxes of cases, and it's about $1,300 per order for 10 cases. We do 2 orders a year, so we're spending $2,500 easily.
On the bags.
Easily,
Are they biodegradable?
yes,
Oh, good. For that price, they should be.
yes. And I feel it's a privilege, it's an amenity. I've always joked, like, why don't we, I don't have pets, what do I get? Should there be lollipop stations for kids? I'm a little cynical about this, like free bags for dog owners. I used to live in the Twin Cities area. I was in the Summit neighborhood, very fancy. We all had to carry bags. You saw this, everybody on their leash had their little bag dispenser and bags tied to their wrists, and it was just a part of living in the city, was to carry your own bags.
And when you have people, suburban people especially, have been well-schooled in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
My sense is that I would rather have clean sidewalks
Yes.
and make it easy for people to do that, rather than to demand that they do it and then be unhappy when they aren't.
And that's, we all agree, Steve.
$2,500 for the year doesn't sound outrageous for 18 locations.
That's right.
You're what, $125 or $30 per location?
That's right. And we all agree that we might as well make it easy and convenient, and 99% of the people do it, but all it takes is one.
How many bags go in each of those stations?
It's difficult to say.
About?
They're sold in sleeves, probably 50 to 100.
So what we have, if all of them are used properly, is we've saved 50 or 100 pieces of piles of dog poop from being on the sidewalk.
You could say that.
That's
But
not
again,
inconsiderable.
all it takes is one or two offenders, and it's typically, we see this in the park, obviously, as we are in the park, and especially in the off-season, that place becomes like the local dog park. People come on down, they open the door, they let the two big labs out, and they drive the car next to the dogs running off leash, and they do their thing, and that's
Usually
the
locals.
pretty common exercise for what we see in the off-season in the park. And even though we got 12 of these stations everywhere, these people aren't getting out of their cars and they're not picking up after their pets. And so we deal with this every spring. This stuff melts out of the snow, and I go out there with this, there is such thing as a poop fairy, and it's us, it's the staff. And I thank my staff for dealing with this, because it's stinky, it's nasty, and it's this privilege for pet owners. And we support it. We don't want to expand it. I feel like in the case of the Gitchagami especially, like that's a state trail. Like if you guys want bags, go
So
for
there-
it.
There's one station on the trail now, on the old trail,
Yeah,
as it goes through your campground. The question is, should we put bags, or should we admonish people when we catch them? And how severely should we punish them? So our current solution is, my wife and I will pick up the poop. We will watch this problem for recurrence. If there's another complaint from Visit Cook County, we may have to do something, but it sounds like we are doing reasonable due diligence for a rural trail adjacent to a city park, which has the same problem. But it doesn't look like the abuse is concentrated near the park. It seems to be spread, if anything, on the DOT end of the trail.
So I trust that after a few years of this, we'll give you appropriate recognition for your volunteer work.
It hasn't worked in anything else in my professional life. I see no reason why it should suddenly become operative now. But I'm happy to scoop a little poop if it keeps our asphalt clean.
While we're on
That's
this
easy.
subject, when I used to own an island in the Mississippi River, which is now part of the centerpiece of the Oxbow Scientific and Natural Area, 24 river miles southeast of Grand Rapids. The reason I mention it is there was a trail that the animals, especially deer, followed along the edge of the island and back into the river to swim across. And we often found deer scat, but one year we found bear scat, and it was much bigger than the deer cat. And as a result, we hung our food in the trees.
yeah.
I used to run sled dogs. So when you're running your dogs on trail, they poop continuously. But you're on a dog trail, nobody cares. It's way the hell out in the woods.
Right.
When the dogs are chained in your yard, which they were the rest of the time, we are responsible for picking it up. So I picked up my life's share of dog poop. I don't think people should let their dogs run loose and poop, but shaming them is not helpful. Remediating this through volunteer action is the way to go. And then we'll keep that in concert with the park, so it's a smooth transition down to the park where they have little bags. I don't want a bag station every quarter mile on the trail.
Okay?
Won't work anyway.
No danger of that from the sound of things here.
No.
All right. The other new business was Frankie wanted to talk about meeting times.
Well, they said that we were meeting at 4:30 because somebody was on the board that didn't get off work till 4:30, or 4:45. And I would like to meet at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh. Well, does anybody have any strong feelings about that?
Sounds like a tea time to me, which would get in the way of my future golfing career
Yeah, if you ever have one.
next year.
I think it puts a pinch on the ability for working folks to attend if we, obviously if you're retired and your day is free, it works, but the reason it was always 4 or 4:30, I think, was to give, working class the opportunity.
I'm inclined to suggest that we table the item until we have our new fifth member. At a minimum, that person ought to be able to participate in the decision as to meeting time changes. And I encourage, since we haven't been overwhelmed with applications, I encourage you to contact people who might have relevant experience and interest.
Craig, how would early afternoon work for
I
you?
can at 2. I have a truck that shows up at 2, and I just got done putting it away. That's why I'm here now.
Oh.
That's why I'm late.
Craig,
Okay.
5 would be better for.
With regard to
Earlier
next
is not
meeting,
better for me, later is better for
It
me.
would be good if we had a report from Paul on the golf that was distributed more than a day or two early.
Sure.
Maybe along with the minutes on the Friday before. That would be adequate.
He has prepared that in the past. I know we've looked at that, like an executive report on the season, a
Yeah.
summary. I'll get that.
Yeah. Is there any other business to be brought before the company? If not, I will declare the meeting adjourned unless somebody objects. The meeting is adjourned.
Thanks,
Okay.
Steve. Thank you all.
thank you for your contribution.